Welcome to another episode of Digital Disruptions Dialogues, where we explore the ideas, technologies, and leaders shaping the future of enterprise innovation. I'm your host, Karina Quinn, and today we're diving into one of the most transformative shifts in modern business, the new AI workforce. Artificial intelligence is no longer just a back office tool or a buzzword. It's becoming a true member of the team. From automating workflows to enhancing creativity, AI is redefining how we work, lead, and collaborate. Joining me today to unpack this evolution is Chris Beckford, our President and CEO of eTRANSERVICES. Hi, Chris. Would you like to introduce yourself for any new listeners?
Sure. I'm Chris Beckford, CEO of eTRANSERVICES, retired Marine Mustang and tech enthusiast. And I'm here to have fun.
Awesome. Great introduction. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So to kind of set the scene of our conversation today, let's talk about the current state of AI at work. So how is AI currently reshaping the workplace?
AI is reshaping the workplace in a big way. If you look at the headlines, you see Amazon planning on, automating the workforce, eliminating some jobs, and I think this is only the beginning. And primarily, the big changes that are being made, we're talking about automating repetitive tasks. In addition to that, it's augmenting decision making. And while it's doing that, it also is creating new jobs. And when I say that, AI from the perspective of helping and augmenting decision making, it's a helper. It's a tool, just like any other tool. Years ago, it was a calculator, and now it's a smarter thinking calculator that does a lot more than just calculations. It helps you with your actual decisions, helps you with the analysis of alternatives, and it helps you make decisions. And in some cases, it will make decisions. But I think that's how AI is reshaping the workforce, especially when it comes to repetitive tasks.
Awesome. And in your view, what separates AI adoption from the true AI integration into organizations?
A part of this is hype, and then there's also reality. But at the end of the day, the focus of AI is to drive productivity. So as far as the adoption, true adoption means embedding AI deeply within the business processes. And right now, where it is, where majority of people, or a lot of people use ChatGPT, it's based on prompt. True integration no longer requires prompting. The AI will anticipate based on external factors and based on information provided, knowledge that it pulls from various sources. And I think that's the big difference between adopting. Most people are just using ChatGPT, prompt, do this, do that, provide this, give me this. And then when it's truly integrated, you won't have a need for that. It's more agentic.
And what industries or functions are seeing the fastest change due to AI right now?
Tech, of course.
Right.
And that's where the money is. I listen to people like Dan Ives, and they're saying that we're in the middle or the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution, and we have to pay attention to that. But tech, finance, marketing, administrative services. Uh, Most of the administrative tools come with AI as a part of them, and routine tasking and knowledge type work where it requires research. A lot of that can be automated these days. At one point, we had the need for a marketing team. Well, now you may need a marketing subject matter expert. Augment that subject matter expert with AI and AI tools. And now you have a marketing team. On the tech side of the house, we used to, you know, and it's still being done in some cases, sit around and have people do analysis, review inputs, and for cybersecurity, for example. And now with AI is doing a lot of the scanning, the aggregation of the data, and making recommendations based on decision that it has access to, or information, making decisions based on information that it has access to.
So since AI can serve multiple functions, I've heard many times people say AI is going to take over everyone's jobs. So how do you think that kind of has changed your employees' perceptions of AI?
I think again we're talking about hype and maturity. It's not there yet. Will some jobs be lost to AI? Yes, but I think there are also going to be a lot of jobs that are created by AI, and I also think that a lot of jobs are going to become more meaningful by the augmentation or adoption of AI, especially when AI becomes embedded within business processes and cultures.
What kind of jobs do you think are gonna not be existent after AI, and what kind of jobs do you think would be created because of AI?
Jobs that will be eliminated by AI. We're talking about jobs that are repetitive. For example, a security guard. Security guard will sit there and watch or monitor the screen and looking for, reviewing videos and seeing what's happening. Well, AI can do that. AI can tell you, uh, what's happening on the screen, doing the analysis, and also report that. Jobs that are going to be created by AI, they're all types. Many of the AI jobs haven't been created as yet, and those are going to be the jobs that requires high level decision making, because the AI is going to do a lot of the low level work, the analysis, the aggregation of data, the providing evidence to make those decisions. AI is embedded within the Department of Defense in some place that we wouldn't uh, expect to see AI as adopted so rapidly, but it's there. Things like Palantir helping make decisions and making recommendations to deploy troops and forces. Um, uh, it's changing the dynamics of the world.
I'm not too familiar with that. Do you mind elaborating more on that, Palantir, and what you just explained a little bit?
Palantir grabs data from various type of sources and platforms, and it helps make decisions. Well, if you want to deploy forces, troops, based on national emergencies or contingencies, most of the data is already there. Most of the sensors are already there. Now AI can rapidly absorb that data and information and make recommendations to the warfighters, to the leaders, to the strategic planners. Um, you know, that's a role that normally it's slow to adopt that type of technology within the military, but it's happening, and it's happening fast.
Yeah, that's interesting. So now let's kind of dive into strategy and leadership. So building the AI ready enterprise. What does it really mean to be an AI-ready organization?
You have to start with an architecture, and uh, and that architecture consists of uh, data and data elements. So if you're AI ready, because for the AI to make sense and to make recommendations, provide input that's valuable, it's going to need um, it's going to need data. It's and the more data, the better. The decisions and the recommendations. So you're going to have to look at the people, the culture ready. People understand the benefits that they will get from adopting or integrating AI. That's the only way you're going to be ready. People have to be ready to evolve to the next level. The leadership has to realize that um, uh, people um, uh, in some cases will push back, but in other cases they will embrace it. But at the end of the day, the decision is being made by the human that's in the loop. And it's great to have somebody else, in this case, the AI, aggregating the data for decision making or planning purposes. So those organizations are ready when they have clearly defined processes. Those organizations are more ready than others.
How do you ensure AI initiatives align with enterprise strategy, not just IT enthusiasm?
First, you have to define your organization's objectives, goals, where expectations, and then you have to gradually introduce AI and the benefits of AI. And you may start with augmenting rather than replacing, and then involve employees to, I guess, in a sense, reduce the anxiety about the threat that may exist of AI. And like I said earlier, new jobs are going to be created, but at the same time, some jobs will be eliminated.
What new leadership skills are emerging in this AI-enabled era?
Management, leadership, strategic thinking, interpersonal skills, uh, um, empathy, uh, and empathy probably more than most, because if you get up one morning on the wrong side of the bed and decide that you can eliminate your entire workforce, yes, the technology is there to eliminate some, but is that something you really want to do? Um, you have to think about the impact, and the impact on your organization's culture, the impact on your clients, on your workforce. AI is great, but you still need a human being in some places. You can't just replace everybody.
And how should organizations prepare employees for working alongside AI?
There's the 101. You have to learn about what AI is, what it can do, what it can't do. What are the limitations based on the language model that you're using? And also look at the various types of AI solutions out there. Um, you may want to introduce 4 or 5 LLMs or within your organization, large language models. Maybe ChatGPT works, maybe Perplexity works, but in many cases you won't get the same answer from different uh, AI's solutions.
How do roles and responsibilities evolve when tasks shift from people to algorithms?
People are the decision makers, and you want to keep that in play. The roles will shift based on the work that needs to be done. And we're talking about leaders are going to be adopting frameworks that enable transparency, accuracy, um, and continuous monitoring. But at the same time, we have to take a look at things like data privacy, biases, and stakeholder engagement. Uh, I was at a conference last week and somebody made a presentation and they said, well, the AI does this and the AI does not introduce any bias. Well, that's kind of difficult because who created the AI? Did they have a bias? So based on who programmed it, who created it, who developed the model, AI can be biased. So that's a consideration for leaders and the workforce and the adoption. Because if you just take a biased perspective, then that's what you will have. You will not get considerations because if your data is limited, then so will your decision making.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, how can leaders ensure that AI is ethical, explainable, and trustworthy and not biased?
It comes from the language models. It comes with how the algorithm was created. The ones that you're using, you have to be selective. Hence why it's a good thing to use different AI solutions. And can you 100% guarantee that it's not biased? No, you can't, because it's created by man. It's created by humans, and humans, all of us have some level of bias. So when we develop a solution, the solution will inherit some of those biases, even in code.
What governance frameworks are needed to manage AI responsibly?
What are the privacy associated with data? When you upload your data into the AI for analysis, where's that data stored? Who can access it? Is it local to your organization, or is it being used by somebody else to train the AI? We just talked about bias. How do you mitigate biases? Um, uh, you know, based on the the data and the type of data, can you explain how the decision, because the AIs will make certain recommendations. Can you explain the algorithm and the methodology for the decision making, or the explainability of it? And then, who's feeding, where the AI is getting its data? Because if the AI makes a recommendation, it's getting data from various sources. So based on what you want out of the AI, it may make sense for an individual to basically configure their AI to, like for me, when I pull data and I use the data for the AI for analysis, I want to see the references that were used. I don't want the AI to just blindly make a recommendation. I want to know and I want to understand the references that are used, so I have a better understanding of the governance that's being used.
Who owns accountability when an AI-driven decision causes harm or error?
Well, accountability at the end of the day comes down to the the organization that's deploying it. That's who is ultimately responsible. You can't explain or disavow the answers, but the accountability comes down to the organizations that's deploying it, the oversight of the personnel that are managing or the language model or the decisions that are being made. And then probably, one of the other most important fact is what are the policies that are in place? Are they clear? Can they be articulated without misunderstanding? Because you don't want vague recommendations, vague answers from the AI. So the organizations doing the deployment is ultimately responsible because you're going to use that to make decisions, and those decisions are going to enable or disable.
And looking ahead, so I know we kind of already touched on all of this, but what will the AI workplace look like in, let's say, 2030?
2030, that's hard. We already know that Moore's law is gone. Technology isn't doubling anymore, it's quadrupling. It's going a lot faster. So 2030, if I look at where we are right now with Musk and his chip that could be implanted, 2030, we should be, and we're talking 2025 right now. So in 5 years, I would say almost seamless human AI collaboration, almost seamless. And I'll use that word uh, with a level of strength, almost seamless AI collaboration. Now, the augmented AI that will be helping humans make decisions will be embedded in all the apps. So therefore, all the workflows will have some level of AI embedded in them. That's 5 years from now.
So you say almost. When do you think it will be seamless collaboration?
I don't think anybody can predict that, but I would think that within the next 10 years, it would be seamless. And if you look at, right now, there's not enough chips on the market. There's not enough NVIDIA chips, and they're one of the dominant companies right now. There's not enough chips to satisfy everybody. So the top tier, the hyperscalers, they have to be satisfied first. And those are your Microsoft, your Amazon. And then by the time you get AI down to your desktop, and I think NVIDIA is making a deal with Intel. So you're going to have your personal computers that are going to be deployed in the next 2-3 years. They're going to have AI embedded in the personal computer that's able to assist, and the software is going to evolve. So, I would think, within the next 10 years, we should see seamless, but it's not going to be pushed all the way down. Like anything else, it will start at the more mature countries or nations, and then it will get down to, your third tier countries, your third worlds. But we still have a while before it's everywhere and at the same maturity. Because one of the things to consider is the chips that support AI still being managed, still being guarded. Right now, the United States will not send its best chips to China because it becomes a threat. We have to preserve national security. So one of the things that we have to look at is the technology will be guarded going forward, and it will be limited as far as distribution. You don't want to enable threats to your sovereignty or national security. So those are the other considerations on the deployment, the maturity, and the workplace integration, seamless collaboration of AI.
Awesome. And do you have any tips or advice for other organizations or leaders looking to create an ideal AI-powered workplace?
Future-proof by investing in continuous learning, adaptability, and develop interpersonal skills that we see in some places is lacking. And one of the reasons for that is top level leadership must have a level of empathy when hiring people. So you're not hiring, you can always teach somebody the skills, but there's some things that you just have to show up with. You know, morals, empathy, because the last thing you want somebody to do is to weaponize the use of AI. Um, when we have our leadership discussions within the company, when we look at the leadership traits like justice, fairness, courage, all those come into play, because now you're giving a 20 something, 30 something, 40 something, 50 something a very powerful tool. And that tool could be an asset, or it could also turn into a liability for the company and many other organizations.
Awesome. I think you've touched on every single one of my questions. So before we wrap it up, do you have any more insight you'd like to share regarding AI or AI in the workplace? Any closing remarks?
I think the AI powered workplace is going to be focused on empowering AI focused workers or people that are creative, and people that will maintain the human connection. Creativity is a must going forward. The ability to think outside the box, the ability to ask the right questions, the ability to solve problems by looking at a problem differently. And I think that workforce that can think, we can always train afterwards, because the AI is there to enable, but enable from starting with what? That's critical. That is empowering, and you have to start with critical thinkers. And the leadership must embrace empathy.
That's all for today's episode of Digital Disruptions Dialogues. A big thank you to Chris Beckford, our President and CEO of eTRANSERVICES, for sharing his insights on leading in the age of AI. The future of work isn't man versus machine. It's about humans and AI working smarter together. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Digital Disruptions Dialogues.